All right, today we're going to look at Johnson Brothers Plumbing and Drain Cleaning for our first in the series of territory expansion reviews, I guess you'd call them. They're located in Quincy, and they say they service all the way down to Plymouth. So they have, you know, six service area pages on their website. So the question I have first, it makes me, if they're going all the way down to Quincy, I mean all the way down to Plymouth, um, I'm sure they service the areas in between. You got Hanson, Duxbury, uh, Pembroke, all the way down. There's probably a dozen cities at least right in between. And then they also have an office in Abington. It looks like they have an Abington, a Quincy, and an Abington address. So it makes me wonder if they service maybe all of the South Shore and inland. If they have an office in Abington, they'd probably go out to East Bridgewater, maybe even Middleborough. So we're just going to take a quick look at the territory presence and see if there's any gaps in the areas they serve um, in the footprint of in that area. So the first one we'll take a look at is their main office, right? Is in Quincy. So let's just take a quick look. And we're not going to do a bunch of these, but um, just do some quick spot checks. So I get Plymouth, Quincy, and it looks like they do have a considerable amount of presence in this territory. Um, and then let's just stretch it out all the way down to Plymouth. And maybe we'll look at Abington too because they have a different office, it seems like, or a different address there. Um, Not the same story in Plymouth. We could bring it in a little closer. Um, they had Marshfield. Oh, Marshfield on there too. And I think the website was the Johnson Brothers. Um, I don't see much going on in Marshfield either, but because they have that other office in Abington, let's just look in Abington real quick. So they do have presence. They are showing up and they have a little bit of footprint. Oh, they have, a considerable footprint in Abington. And then where from that Abington location can they serve? We could even try Whitman because that's right there, and Rockland. And Rockland is probably in between, both offices. Um, I don't see much going on in Whitman. Let's look at Rockland. Not much going on in Rockland either. So, um, we don't have to look at all of them. But the question I have is, are these cities in between Quincy and Plymouth that they don't have listed as um, pages on the website? Are those places that they'd be willing to go? And my guess is yes, but there may be reasons they don't. Um, so that's one thing business has to think about. What areas are there are they worth going to? So, but anyway, the ones listed on the website, obviously those are, and some of them, a couple of them, like Quincy and Abington look good. Plymouth, Marshfield, not so much. And I'm sure that they have dedicated pages on their website. So there's where the territory kind of gap is, customer opportunity gap is. You're willing to go out to these areas, um, but just being willing to go out there does not mean you have a customer opportunity presence out there. Now, I don't have access to their analytics, and I don't know their business model, so there may be reasons they exclude certain cities. Um, excuse me. So that being said, there may actually be reasons, and they could be getting um, customer opportunities from something else in these areas too. So you know, I'm just looking at it more of a you know in a structural type of way, mechanical type of way, but business type of way. They may be getting business from these. Um, so that's kind of the gap in their customer opportunities. Just looking at it without knowing about their business. So this is the first one of these territory opportunity not analysis, but looking at the gaps in a business um, that does a service area. It says they serve areas and their customer opportunities in that area. I'm sure they'll get better, maybe get worse, but that's the first one. Thanks.